I'm loving that.
Thanks, Calvin. This is Mrs. Lehman from Math with Mrs. Lehman, and we're struggling today to come up with an intro, but everyone apparently loves their favorite fast food restaurant. So it says, put the following in order from greatest to least. So we're going to do this bell ringer real quickly before we get into absolute value. So how do we compare these? What's our first step before we compare fractions to decimals? Lola.
You gotta convert the fraction to a decimal.
Very good. How do we turn a fraction into a decimal, Ava?
You divide the top number by the bottom number.
Very good. Sophia.
You divide the denominator by the denominator.
The numerator by the denominator, yep. All right, so 1/2, we would write it vertically like this. So we're going to take 1 divided by 2. What number goes into the quote-unquote gazinta? Made up word. Tori. The 2 goes in there?
Oh, no,
The 1. The 1 goes in there. All right, so 2 does not go into 1. You're going to put a 0 there. Add a decimal point and add another 0 to the end here. Bring that decimal point up. How many times does 2 go into 10? 5. Very good. So we are done because that multiplies out to 10 and you get 0 and there are no more numbers to divide. So 5/10 is the same as 1/2. The next one we have is 51/100. That's already in the format we need. 5/8. So let's try this again. What number goes into the gazinta, Tori? The 5. It's a 5. I just misspoke. All right, so 8 does not go into 5. That's going to be a 0. Add a decimal. All right, and a 0. 8 goes into 50. How many times? 6 times. That's going to give you 48. Subtract, you get 2. Bring down another 0. 8 goes into 20. How many times? 2 times. That's going to give you 16. Subtract, get 4. Bring down another 0. 8 goes into 40 5 times. So instead of 5/8, we're going to compare it to 625 thousandths. We have -1, 1, and 4/5. So I'm going to erase this. 4/5. Which one goes into the gazinta? Zulima. Very good. The 4 divided by 5. 5 goes into 4 0 times. Bring up that decimal point. Add a 0. 5 goes into 40. How many times? 8 times. So 8/10 is the same as 4/5. So another thing I want you to do is some kids actually struggle with comparing decimals. So we have 5/10 compared to 51/100 compared to 625 thousandths compared to 8/10 here. So we can add zeros after a decimal place and we're not changing the value. So maybe it's January. People are getting sick, as you can tell from the background. So we're going to practice covering our mouths when we cough, right, kids? Yes. All right. Anyway, so we're going from greatest to least. So out of these numbers, don't forget our whole numbers we have here. What is our greatest number out of this big list? Kaylin? 1. Very good. So 1 should be first. All right, cross that out. All right, let's look at our decimals now. Which one would be next? Peyton? 800s, but they're probably not going to have 8. Actually, it's not 800s. 8/10. 8/10. So I was willing to go with it there for a second. 8/10. They're not going to write this, right? They're going to probably write 4/5 instead. So we're going to write 4/5 next. All right. What would be next in line? Some new people. Some people get a little camera shy here, even though there's actually no camera involved in this. Amaya? 5/8. Very good. So instead of writing 625 thousandths, we're going to write 5/8 because if this were on a test or something of that nature, we probably wouldn't see that converted. Let's see. What would be next? Cadence? 1/2. Actually would not be next. Look at this one was 1/2, right? this would be 5100ths would actually be next. So we're going to write 5100ths, and then we'll write 1/2. And then the lowest one would be what? -1. Very good. So I like to just double check to make sure I've included all the numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we're good to go. All right, today what we're going to learn is absolute value. If you guys could turn to page 42 in your module books, we're going to talk about this. We're going to write a few definitions down, but absolute value is pretty simple. It's something that really shouldn't be terribly confusing for you. So it's lesson 11, and it says absolute value, magnitude and distance. So absolute value and magnitude mean the same thing, and it means how far is this number from 0 on a number line. So we're going to write distance from 0 on a number line. And an example of this would be, let's try -9. How far is -9 from 0 on a number line? It's 9 units away. Very good. So we would just say the absolute value of -9 equals 9. Now, the mathematical symbol writing of that involves these two flattened parentheses. They look like they've been ironed out. Okay? Try not to make them look like ones, because we don't want it to look like 1 minus 91 equals 9, because that certainly isn't true. So make sure you make them a little bit longer than your numbers and that they're nice and straight, okay? So again, you would read this right here that I'm circling. The absolute value of -9 equals 9. And what that's saying is 9 units from 0 is -9, right? So another number also has an absolute value of 9. Can anyone tell me what other number would also have an absolute value of 9? Peyton.
Can he borrow a pencil?
Yeah, you can borrow a pencil. Who can tell me, though, what is the absolute value, or what other number, I should say? That is nice of you to lend that. Let me go sharpen that. Ava, what other number is going to have an absolute value of 9?
9.
9. Very good. So a number and its opposite have the same absolute value. Let's write that down. After you have that written, we're going to go right into example 1, the absolute value of a number. And they're going to give us an example of 10. All right, it says the absolute value of 10 is written as this. On the number line, count the number of units from 10 to 0. How many units is 10 from 0? It's asking what is the absolute value of 10. What is the absolute value of 10? 10. I don't think this could get any easier, okay? So there you go. What other number has an absolute value of 10? Peyton.
-10.
Very good. So let's write the absolute value of -10 equals 10. Again, make sure it doesn't look like 1 minus 101 equals 10. Okay? Why is that true? Let's go back to what we said earlier. Because a number
and its opposite has the same absolute value?
Very good. So a number and its opposite have the same absolute value. So an example of this would be, I owe someone $10. How much money do I owe? $10. How much are we talking about? 10 bucks, okay? That's the same amount of money I would be talking about if I earn $10. All right, the absolute value of a number is the distance between the number and 0 on the number line. So this is the module's definition right here. Let's put stars by that. And when you're ready, let's go to the next page. We have a chart where we are going to just practice a few pretty simple ones. The number they give us is -6. The absolute value, let's write this down with the new symbols we've learned. The absolute value of -6 equals 6. Let's show this on the number line. So we're going from 0 right here to -6 right here. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 units away. So what other number in this last column here, a different number with the same absolute value? Lola?
6.
6, very good. So we're going to go from 0 to +6 now, and that's also an absolute value of 6. So the absolute value of 6 equals 6 as well. All right, let's go ahead and do the next one. The absolute value of 8 equals what, Calvin?
Oh, equals 8.
Very good. And what other number is going to have an absolute value of 8? Campbell? Nice and loud.
-8.
Very good. -8. The absolute value of -8 equals 8 as well. Okay, so we're going to start at 0. Let's go to 8 first. So here's 8. Boom, 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 boom. That's 8 jumps. And we're going to go the opposite way now to -8. And we'll see that this is also 8 jumps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right. The absolute value of -1. Manson, what's the absolute value of -1?
1.
Very good. If you're looking for a challenge, this is not the lesson for you. All right, so -1 has an absolute value of 1. What other number has an absolute value of 1? Ava?
1.
Yep. All right, so we're going to talk about this in context next. That's a 1, not a 2. That looks like, I'm just going to erase that. Looks like a mustache. All right, so with the lies now. Anyway, we're going to go to example 2. It says, Mrs. Owens received a call from her bank because she had a checkbook balance of -$45. Oops. What was the magnitude of the amount overdrawn? What's it asking for? The absolute value. Very good, because magnitude and absolute value mean the same thing. So the absolute value of -$45 equals 45. Yep, so we're talking about $45.
That's a lot.
And the magnitude of a quantity is found by taking the absolute value of its numerical part. If you haven't noticed, negative numbers and positive numbers always come out as a positive absolute value because it's a positive distance, right? You wouldn't say you live -5 miles from town, you know, even if you turned left there or whatever, it's still a distance of 5 miles. All right, for exercises 4 through 19, I'm going to get you started on this, and your homework is to finish whatever your class hasn't gotten to. So here we go. Maria was sick with the flu, and her weight as a result of it is represented by -4 pounds. Oof. Oof. How much weight did Maria lose? So we're going to find the absolute value of what number? -4. So the absolute value of -4 is 4. So if you want to be fancy, you can write Maria lost 4 pounds. Let's go to the next page. Jeffrey owes his friend $5. How much is Jeffrey's debt? So we're talking about a debt of $5. We want to find out how much money we're talking about. What goes into the absolute value symbols there? This is on the same page for you guys. Zulima. Very good. -5. And the absolute value of -5, everyone, is? 5. Yep. Okay. The elevation of Niagara Falls, which is located between Lake Erie and Lake Ontario, is 326 feet. How far is this above sea level? So we're looking for the absolute value of what number? 326. What's the absolute value of 326? Campbell? This is so tough. How far below zero is -16 degrees Celsius? So we're looking for the absolute value of -16. We're talking about how many degrees? Zulima? 16, yes, very good. All right, so this next one's super challenging. You actually have 3 numbers you have to do this with. All right, Frank received a monthly statement for his college savings account. It listed a deposit of $100 as +100. It listed a withdrawal of $25 as -25. And the statement showed an overall ending balance of $835.50. Way to go, Frank, saving money. How much money did Frank add to his account that month? So that would be his deposit, right? How much was his deposit? How much did he take out? What did he withdraw? What was his withdrawal amount? What is the total amount Frank has saved for college? So it's looking for those 3 numbers that we've underlined. So the first one was a deposit of 100. So we're looking for the absolute value of 100. What's the absolute value of 100? 100. We're looking for the amount that he took out. So the amount that he withdrew. So he took out $25. So the absolute value of -25 is 25. I know, it's pretty difficult. And then the overall balance, was that a positive or negative? Positive, which is good if he's saving for something. All right, and then we're going to take the absolute value of that, which is always positive. All right, pretty easy. Oh, this next one's a real tricky one. Oh, yeah, terribly tricky. I said for real, Mrs. Lehman? All right. Meg is playing a card game with her friend Iona. Excuse me. The cards have positive and negative numbers printed on them. Meg exclaims, "The absolute value of the number on my card equals 8. What is the number on Meg's card? Oh, what, Haley? Very good. Haley said 8 or -8. That's right, 8 or -8, and let's prove it. So the absolute value of 8 equals 8. The absolute value of -8 equals 8. Let's say positive and negative number whose absolute value is greater than 3. So who can give me a number in here that's going to be positive, that's going to end up with an absolute value greater than 3? Stone. 4. Ooh, 4. All right, so the absolute value of 4 is? 4. Is that greater than 3? Yes. Yep. All right, good. Now who can give me a negative number whose absolute value is going to end up bigger than 3? Kaden. 2 is going to be less than 3, right? So we want one that's going to, it's got to be negative, and when we find the absolute value, it's going to be bigger than 3. You want to try again? Negative 2 would have an absolute value of 2, right? Which is less than 3. So you want to go with something that's going to end up bigger than 3.
Are you talking about negatives or?
Negatives. Let's phone a friend on this one real quick. Ashton. -6. Now, if you look at this, -6 is how far from 0? 6, right? Do you understand now?
Yeah.
All right, so the absolute value, free sound effects, the absolute value of -6, even though -6 is less than 3, the absolute value of it, the distance from 0, is further than 3 is from 0. All right? All right, let's go to the next page. Which of the following situations can be represented by the absolute value of 10. Check all that apply. The temperature is 10 degrees below 0. Express this as an integer. All right? Is negative 10 the absolute?
Are we supposed to write it in that little blank slot?
No, we're supposed to check. That's our check boxes. Which of the following situations can be represented by the absolute value of 10? So we're looking for 10, right? Is negative 10 the same as 10? No. All right, determine the size of Harold's debt if he owes $10. It's negative 10. Nope. All right, determine how far negative 10 is from 0.
10 hops.
Does that work?
10 hops to the debt.
10 units, right? So that's going to be 10 units left, but it's still 10, so we're going to check that one off.
Why am I checking the other?
Because these are negative 10. We're looking for ones that come out to 10. Positive 10. I mean, this is kind of silly, but 10 degrees is how many degrees above 0? 10. So does that one work?
Yeah.
Yep. It's all dealing with 10, but you just have to figure out which ones would be expressed as a positive 10. All right. Julia used absolute value to find the distance between 0 and 6 on a number line. She then wrote a similar statement to represent the distance between 0 and negative 6. Below is her work. Is it correct? She put the absolute value of 6 equals 6 and the absolute value of negative 6 equals negative 6.
No.
What's wrong with it?
The negative 6 doesn't equal.
The absolute value of negative 6 does not equal negative 6. So let's fix that. So the absolute value of negative 6 equals what?
6.
6. All right? The sarcasm in here. Okay. Anyway, thanks for watching. We're going to have to get going, but don't forget to like and subscribe.